Dear Dorothy, an old dream of mine is coming true, yet I do not feel entirely happy. I have long been preparing for Spain, and I have heard and read so many good things about Toledo. Still, although I know I am in no immediate danger, I do not feel safe on this strange journey. Perhaps I make too much of odd coincidences and the meaning of the mysterious manuscripts. Whatever it is, I have a growing sense that a strange fog surrounds this story, whose characters, including me, of course know nothing about what's going on around them. Do not worry. These doubts are not driving me insane. It's just that I feel more and more like a detective, a hound pursuing a trail, instead of a cultural historian who's commissioned by the British Museum and sets out to search for a few forgotten board games. Perhaps I shall soon find out what my real role is in this whole story. I am on the last stretch of an unpleasant coach journey in which my only fellow passengers are a rather gruff priest and my unquiet thoughts. Soon we shall arrive in Toledo. Your letter reached me at the hotel in Madrid. Thank you very much for the idea. I shall look up your old drawing teacher, Mr. Salvador Diaz-Palencia. I believe he will be helpful in my search for the descendant of the cursed family, a man by the name of Candelas. Your loving husband, Samuel. Fabulous city. Toledo, the jewel box of European culture. If my Dorothy's memory was not failing her, the painter must live here, in this quarter. Would you please tell me where Salvador Diaz-Palencia, the painter, lives?
I don't know exactly. Somewhere there at the Plaza San Pedro. Through the gate.
Good afternoon. You must be Professor Hunt from England. I've been expecting you. Please come in.
Miss, I am looking for a certain Mr. Salvador Diaz-Palencia.
This is his house. My name is Carmen. Carmen Diaz-Palencia. Unfortunately, my father is no longer alive. I know. Your kind wife sent a letter, and I consider it my duty to help my father's old friends.
I will be indebted to you. I'm very sorry. I didn't know.
Of course. How could you have known? My father died of tuberculosis approximately 1 year ago. He did not inform any of his English friends. But believe me, Professor, I am happy to see you at last. I've arranged my father's room for you. If you please, I believe you will find it comfortable. It has a separate entrance, so I will not disturb you in your contemplation. I know a man needs that often.
Oh, thank you very much, Miss Diaz-Palencia. That is very kind of you. Though I think I will only stay for a few days, and I really hope that the research will not be so complicated that I would need so many hours alone to think.
As you wish, Professor. Here is the key to the gate and your residence. Please do rest after the long journey.
Please tell me about your father. I myself have only heard about him.
Yes, your kind wife. Well, my father was born here in Toledo. He studied to be a painter, and he was an excellent trumpeter. It was his great wish to see London, the very heart of European culture. So he traveled after finishing his studies and soon settled down in England. He worked as a teacher for children of wealthy families. He generally taught the boys how to play trumpet, and the girls and ladies how to paint. And those less talented he acquainted with the history of art. Your wife must know him from these times. My father was a very handsome man. Women were crazy about him. I am convinced many families only employed him because the women in the family insisted. They preferred to endure the drawing classes solely for the purpose of being alone with the handsome teacher a little.
Well, Dorothy didn't mention such details.
My father was not an angel either. He adored female beauty, both as an artist and as a man. Thus it is no surprise that he got into some trouble. One day, a countess from the country fell madly in love with him, and my father's love was kindled too. And the unexpected fruit of that love stands here before you.
Oh, so there is English blue blood running in your veins, miss.
I am not so proud of this. After news of the pregnancy got out, there was a big scandal. The Count was terribly enraged, and of course this reached the other lords. Soon my father ceased to be the favorite of families. Instead, he was dismissed, even though so many girls cried for him. My mother gave birth, but her husband the Count would not hear of her bringing me up in the castle, despite the fact that they together could never have a child. I was torn from her, and my father received a message from the village woman saying that she would have to take care of his daughter.
These must have been terrible times.
Yes, really. My mother sometimes met my father in secret in the village. Maybe she saw me as well, but she knew it was impossible to divorce, since the poor painter could hardly support himself. And her life turned into a living hell with the Count. Not long after, she committed suicide. She jumped out of an upstairs window. My father was already rearing me on his own at that time, and one day he received a letter from Toledo. The disasters hadn't ended. His aging mother died suddenly, and the family house stood empty. The road was paved for him. He returned to his hometown with a child born out of wedlock, a strange souvenir from his long trip to England.
When did all that happen?
We were in Spain by the time I celebrated my second birthday. In 1 month, I will be 21 years old.
Miss Carmen, how did you lose your father?
My father grew very silent and reserved in the last years. He went to paint on his own a lot, and in the latest months to take photos of the area. He was looking for the points that had once inspired his favorite painter, El Greco, who was also born in Toledo. He continued to give drawing lessons, but he was compelled to give up his trumpet students because of the tuberculosis that slowly overcame him. We made a living from my embroidery. I have many clients nowadays, too.
You weren't very rich then either.
You need not be polite, Professor. We were poor as hell. My father was more and more burdened by guilt in the last years. He kept mentioning that he had failed to give me a future that would measure up to my birthright, talents, and his intentions, and he therefore had not kept the promise he made to my mother. He wanted to find me a suitable husband before his death, but that fell through too. The illness was stronger than he was.
Tell me, did your father have a will? Did he bequeath anything to you?
There was a short will in which he left everything to me, of course. Strangely, he also included that the music box he had been making for months was also to be my possession, no one else's. I came to the conclusion that poor Dad lost his mind in those final days.
There's nothing interesting in that box?
Of course not. A pretty little box which plays music when you open the lid. Sweet, but for a long time I thought he was making it for someone else. Maybe some client.
Please, tell me about yourself.
About myself? Well, it won't be easy without crying.
Come, is there such tragedy? Is it the poverty? Or you still miss your father so much?
No, I would not complain about being poor. What's more, there is an old gentleman nowadays who pays me quite well for reading to him. The newspapers in the morning and one of his books in the evening. And I have my embroidery. And I have come to think of my father with mixed feelings.
Do you feel bitter towards him for some reason?
You could say that. That is, really, I don't know what to think. Something's happened lately. But, Professor, can I trust you at all?
Miss Diaz Palencia, you considered it your duty to look after me as though I were someone you long knew and did not know. So allow me, in the place of your father, and in exchange, to protect and help you as a father would, while I enjoy your hospitality. Please continue. Maybe telling me a few things could be useful.
Thank you, Professor Hound. So a few weeks ago, I heard someone knock on the door. It was the most influential man in the area, old Alonso Garcia de la Rica and his son Eugenio, and they were waving a document carrying my father's signature. The paper said that if my father is unable to find a husband for me, whose estate matches the worth of our house before I turn 21, then all our possessions are to be transferred to the Garcia de la Rica family, and I must marry the ugly and feeble Eugenio.
Oh, that is astounding. And did you get a good look at your father's writing and signature? It wasn't forged?
It was his original handwriting, without a doubt. Mr. Alonso mentioned some bet, resolution or promise, but I was in such shock and understood little of what he said to me. The gentlemen left rather quickly, and of course they took the document with them.
And your father never talked to you about this?
No, never. Whatever his reasons were, he should have told me. He was a coward, may he rest in peace.
Miss Diaz Palencia, you're a pretty young girl. I'm sure you have suitors, and not just one, but many. Can't one of them save you from this forced marriage?
Look, Professor, maybe I would have suitors, but I am willing to marry only one man. The blacksmith's assistant, who lives nearby, has been a good friend of mine since I was a child. We have loved each other since we were born. My father wasn't against our marriage because he was friends with his father, and his mother was my nanny in my early childhood.
That is what I am talking about. Couldn't you marry this young man?
No, I cannot. On the one hand, he's dirt poor, let alone having an estate equal to the house. And on the other hand, all our hope has gone up in smoke as he has been jailed. He has been charged with the theft of valuables.
Well, then he may not be the best choice.
No, Professor. I am convinced that Francisco is innocent. It's just that we are so unlucky, both of us.
Oh, you shouldn't cry. Maybe the situation is not so bad.
There is no hope left. Please, Professor, you seem to be such a kind person. Help me. I don't know how and by what means you could help, but I would be grateful if you could save me from this hopeless situation. Otherwise, it is not worth living anymore.
Come, don't say such things, my dear. You must not give up. I'll see what I can do. Well, to tell you a little about my research, I'm looking for a family, that is, a living descendant. According to the old scripture, the name is Candelas.
Candelas? That is Francisco's family name. His full name is Francisco Candelas. Theirs is an old family of swordsmiths, and they have been citizens of Toledo for centuries.
How lucky! I say, you see, this research really won't take long in this city. And who is the youngest man in the family?
Francisco. He has no brother. His sister died in infancy a long time ago. But you have little chance of meeting him, Professor. As I said, He is in the city prison and not for very long. In a few days, he will be taken to Madrid for questioning, and he may be lost to us.
Well, the situation is really worrisome. Could you please tell me where I can find the Candelas family residence?
It's just 2 corners from here, at 9 Calle de Aranjuez. There you will only find poor Isabel at home.
Miss Diaz Palencia, please tell me anything you know about the theft that has resulted in Francisco's imprisonment.
I have a feeling this is yet another of the trials I must endure. There is no such thing as chance. So about 10 days ago, there was a big commotion in the neighborhood. A valuable ornamental sword had been stolen from the Garcia de la Rica palace. You know, they are the ones who had come here with my father's letter. Originally, the sword had been crafted by Francisco's grandfather. Francisco has been working in the palace recently, so they suspected him. He has been accused of attempting to steal back the family heirloom which his father gave as a present to the wealthy Mr. Alonso. But the scoundrel knows about our love, and so he accused him of taking the sword, since with it he could get at least half of the value of our house. Thus there would be a chance to get married before the deadline, my birthday.
And how has your beloved responded? Does he deny the charges?
Of course. I admit, Alonso's suggestion also crossed my mind. But Francisco looked me directly in the eye and said he was innocent of the theft. And I believe him.
I see. Excuse me, miss. Please don't think me nosy, but could I myself examine that music box?
That one? Of course. Quite freely. Please feel free to look around among my father's old belongings if you are bored. The key to the box is in the desk drawer. If you open the lid, the small machine plays my father's favorite tune. There was a time when I often listened to the old song, but nowadays my heart sinks when I hear it. I think anger has also mixed with the grief.
Don't be hasty, my dear Miss Diaz Palencia. Your father must have been forced by some circumstance to act as he did. But maybe I will find out more if I listen to that melody myself. Thank you. Well, this is more or less how I imagined it. Mr. Diaz Palencia could not deny his attraction to England. I must admit I would have been glad to meet him. Mr. Diaz Palencia's diary, which he used in teaching the trumpet. This is it. Oh, but this is Dorothy. Of course, at the time she was only interested in art. As if they were the sketches for the same work. Locked. Perhaps some lumber room is inside. The good old trumpet, finally hung up. Good old London. Unfortunately, I have no musical hearing myself and don't know the code of notes. But perhaps something else is hiding in these books other than tunes. See what an important role music can have in someone's life who can even play an instrument. I would have been surprised to find it missing from the shelf. Aha, let's see. Interesting. Interesting. Look at this. Useful reading. Well, here it is. This will be that strange music box. These dials, like some safe, some sort of lock. Oops, perhaps. But no, I have not hurt the little ballet dancer. Someone designed it to be so. But this is a letter. Indeed, it is a nice melody, perhaps part of some well-known tune, but I have never heard it. Miss, you said, didn't you, that you know the melody the box plays?
Yes, I have heard it. It was my father's favorite song, but I don't know anything more about it.
Neither its title, nor the lyrics, nor... nothing?
I am ashamed, Professor, but no, really, nothing.
The music box must contain another compartment or compartments. Your father closed these off from prying eyes. Have you any idea what kind of code might help open the inner lid? We have 8 dials with 12 letters on each.
Oh, Professor, I have also seen those dials, but I have no idea what the right letters might be. You will help me find the solution, won't you?
Yes, of course. Miss Diaz-Palencia, the ballet dancer in the music box was concealing a letter. Your father wrote it, and you are the addressee.
Really? A letter?
I've read it, if you will forgive me.
Of course, Professor, don't apologize. I have no secrets, and I am happy you are trying to help.
Please read it. I believe Mr. Diaz-Palencia explains the strange legacy he left behind. Nevertheless, it does not make our situation any easier. Nice plants. Miss Diaz-Palencia is undoubtedly a caring and patient person. perhaps a little shabby, but a pleasant house. The young lady must live upstairs, the kitchen and other rooms must be downstairs.
Mr. Hunt, I've made some biscuits. Please have some. Take as much as you please. You will find a basket on the rim of the well.
Oh, thank you very much, Miss Diaz-Palencia. Who knows? Sometimes a few biscuits can do you good service. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, stranger. Have you got some money? Or at least something to eat? I am happy to play your tune in exchange. Yum! Fresh biscuits. You can have 3 songs for this, sir. What shall I play for you?
What's your name, my man?
Domingo. Just like that. Domingo.
Well, Domingo, I don't know what to ask you to play. Play something the late Diaz-Palencia, the painter, would have liked.
Oh, I don't know, my dear sir, what he would have liked.
Well, anyway, play me a nice tune that's well known hereabouts.
As you please, sir. I promised 3 songs. Here you are. La Vidalita. Pasear a caballo. Marceliano.
Thank you, Domingo. See you later.
May we have the good fortune to meet again, sir. Forgive me, sir, I am thirsty. I will have a drink in the restaurant. Come back later.
All right, Domingo. See you later. Good afternoon, madam. My name is Hunt. I am a professor from England. Miss Carmen Diaz Palencia sent me to you.
Good afternoon. Carmen sent you? Is she unwell, perhaps?
No, you don't need to worry. I am her friend. I would like to talk to you.
With me? Well, all right. Come inside, Mr. Hunt.
Madam, are you the widow of the late Mr. Candelas?
Yes, sir. My name is Isabel Candelas. My husband passed away quite a long time ago. And now my son, too. True, he has not died, but this is almost like death. You know, he has been imprisoned. Innocent.
Yes, I have heard the story from Miss Diaz Palencia. Where is your son locked up?
For a few more days here at the police station at the Plaza San Pedro. But soon they will take him to the capital, and there it will be hopeless to try and prove his innocence. That coward Garcia de la Rica is an influential man, a well-known politician, and no one will say a word against him.
Madam, actually, I am in search of the AGON.
Sorry, sir, I don't know anyone by that name.
What kind of man is your son, Mrs. Candelas?
Francisco is my everything. He is honest. My late husband and I brought him up to be a great man. I am certain that Alonso Garcia de la Rica only wants to take revenge on the Candelas family with the charges he made up. He himself knows that my son is an honest man and would never do something like that. To steal from the man who gives him work, and to steal a sword that my husband gave that monster. Impossible. Francisco is innocent.
What is your son's job?
Francisco learned the smith's profession from his father, Carlos Candelas. The Candelas family is a famous line of master swordsmiths, Mr. Hunt. Although nowadays, beautiful swords or other fine works are not so easy to sell. My son could only make money from blacksmith work and repairs, just enough for the two of us. I don't know what I will do now that I'm so old.
Mrs. Candelas, could you tell me about your husband?
My husband, God bless him, was an excellent master. The last Candelas who could craft the famous blade of Toledo. Due to my father-in-law's international fame, the late Juan Candelas, the blade master, many people used to come to him, and they never left disappointed. However, he unexpectedly left us 2 years ago. The doctor could not exactly say what fatal disease took him.
Could you tell me what this lost sword looked like?
Of course I can, Mr. Hunt. For decades I saw it every day. It hung up there on the wall of our bedroom. It was a beautifully ornamented piece, with lots of ornamental curves, precious stones, and a perfect blade, which the famous blade master engraved his name on. It was one of Juan Candelas' best works. My father-in-law gave it to us as a wedding present. Well, yes, it was a long time ago.
If it is such a masterpiece and even a family heirloom, why was Alonso Garcia de la Rica given the sword?
Please, Mr. Hunt, don't ask me these questions. Those were confused times. That is, I don't know it myself. Something happened 4 years ago. Carlos was upset for weeks, had sleepless nights, and lost a lot of weight. But he did not talk about his trouble, however much I asked him. Then, suddenly, he announced to my son and me that he had lost a bet, and he had to give the beautiful weapon to Garcia de la Rica. I admit I never believed a word of his, but I knew him. There must have been a reason for his decision. I had to accept it. My son didn't argue with him either. He accepted it. He only told me once that if we had still had that sword, he would have asked for dear Carmen's hand. My dear treasure, they love each other so. But Francisco is just as proud as he is poor. Carmen is an angelic being. I know her well. She was still a baby when I became her nanny. Oh, what a beautiful baby she was. She heard Spanish from me for the first time. I considered her my daughter. She became a clever, smart girl, in that she takes exactly after her father. And she loves my son so much. And of course, he loves her too. My God, how happy I'd be if I saw them marry in this life. Salvador was a handsome man. Unfortunately, he died not so long ago. We will all pass away. He was reserved, sort of an artistic personality who turned women's heads even as an old man. My husband and he were good pals, even when they were children. And after the long trip to England, everything continued where they had left it years before. He and Carlos met a lot in the last years. They were good men. God bless them both. Mr. Alonso was both my husband's and the painter Diez Palencia's childhood friend. Today it is difficult to say this, but they were friends. Good friends, even as they got older. After Salvador returned from England, they were on friendly terms again. But Mr. Alonso was always on the margins of the business. The Garcia de la Rica family is very rich. Many politicians and other powerful men have descended from their line. But he was of a different nature than the other two. Years ago there was some family tragedy. Then he really broke down. Since then, he has only been concentrating on the city matters, instead of his own business. He has become a lonely and grumpy man, although I used to see him laugh when he was younger. Domingo, that musician beggar there in the square, he's always there, but I don't know him really.
Thank you, Mrs. Candelas, for answering my questions.
It was my pleasure, Mr. Hunt. You seem to be such a nice, honest person. You will take care of dear Carmen, won't you?
Of course. What's more, I'll see what I can do for your dear son.
Oh, I would be eternally indebted to you, Professor.
A moon calendar. Does no one mind that it has expired? It's last year's. Good morning, officer. My name is Professor Samuel Hunt, a researcher from the British Museum. I would need some information.
Well, a foreigner. Good morning, Professor. What is a professor doing here? Do you have somewhere to stay? You can just walk around here in the street. I know a hotel
I came to visit an old acquaintance. I'm staying with my friend. I am housed comfortably, thank you.
Old acquaintance. But I bet I haven't seen you hereabouts.
That is correct. I know this person from England.
This must be Salvador, the painter. But he's dead. Are you joking with me?
His daughter was so kind as to host me, but do not worry, I only intend to stay for a few days.
I see. But still, if you needed it, I know a good hotel. My nephew is the...
Thank you, officer, no. But would you answer a few questions of mine?
Of course. That is, it depends on what you're interested in.
I am looking for a certain young man by the name of Francisco Candelas.
Francisco? You see, it's not the best time. He's sitting over there. It wasn't easy to catch him because he resisted strongly. But I grabbed him hard by his shirt and brought the villain in here to steal from that good Mr. Alonso. He stole an ornamental sword worth a fortune, did you know?
Yes, I've heard about it. And I've also heard that the sword is still missing and that the boy is innocent.
Uh-huh. Word travels fast, huh? Well, that sword really hasn't been found. Not yet. But I'll get it. I'll find it, since I'm concentrating all my efforts on it, as you can see. But the idea that the Francisco kid is innocent, it would be difficult to prove. It was his grandfather's sword. He wanted to get it back. Blatantly obvious. He worked at Mr. Alonso's house every single day. He planned it out, and then he stole it. That's all. Mr. Alonso testified against him, and he's a clever man, a greatly respected man, whose influence reaches everywhere. This blacksmith's assistant is in deep trouble.
And have you any other proof, Mr. Reollos?
Officer Reollos. Proof? There is proof. But I mustn't discuss this with a stranger. A police officer must be able to keep things confidential. I can say, however, that Mr. Alonso's testimony will be the most decisive proof before all courts.
Yes, this must be so. Why do you think that the sword has not been found? Have you any idea where it could be?
Where it could be? How should I know? But we will find it. That boy must know where it is, and if he won't tell me, my colleagues in Madrid will get him to talk. Don't you worry about it.
Sergeant, would you allow me to have a few words with that straying lad?
No way, Professor. You have no permission.
But who could give such permission?
Me, of course.
Well, really? Then I'd like to have your permission to talk to the young Candelas.
I can't. I would need an order from a higher authority.
You're not saying that only your colleagues in Madrid can issue this order too? Is that all the influence you have over anything on your own? Aren't you the head of the police station here?
Of course, I am. And of course, I'm able to make my own decisions. But I can't. Not because of those in Madrid. They shouldn't always be interfering with our business.
Well, then who could give such an order?
Ask Mr. Alonso. If I get an order signed by Mr. Alonso, I don't mind. You can go in and talk to the suspect.
Where does this Mr. Alonso live?
The Garcia de la Rica Palace is on the main square. You can't miss it. But if you only intend to stay a few days, Professor, then you are unlikely to have any success. As far as I know, today Mr. Alonso has gone with his son to his relatives for a week, and even the housekeeper was released on holiday. Only that cold-blooded butler stays in the house on such occasions.
Maybe it is still worth a try. Would you allow me to ask some more questions?
Of course, but don't expect gossip from me. A policeman never spreads gossip. I knew Carlos Candelas. He used to be a swordsmith like his grandfather, and great-grandfather, and great-great-grandfather. And his son, too. Decent family. This is a big shame for old Carlos. Widow of Candelas. Yes, I must have seen her, because I know everyone in the neighborhood, but especially those with whom I've had trouble. I don't know Isabel Candelas very well. Hey, what a pretty big lass came of that little girl with the braided hair. How could I not know her? On a cloudy day, it would be enough for her to walk down the square, and glimmering brightness would fill even the darkest dungeon. Once she happened to say, "I'm a handsome, decent man." True, it could have been 5 years ago by now. I had no trouble with that painter, but I must tell you frankly, I was always suspicious of him. And I have a nose that never fails. That man was hiding some secret. But now we will never know what it was. Of course, there's no mistake about it. Someone who lives for a long time abroad and then returns suddenly with a child and without a mother. It is unavoidable the talk about him. Oh, Mr. Alonso is a highly respected nobleman. He's very influential, an eminent politician. He traveled around the country for a long time. He knows everyone. He leads a quiet and calm life, has a luxurious home, but he hasn't been leading much of a household since the death of his wife. As far as I know, his son is preparing to be a politician or a lawyer. What did that mischievous fellow do again? Just tell me, and I'll break my truncheon on his back.
Thank you for your help, Sergeant Reyes. I am really grateful to you.
No problem, Professor. Just come anytime you want to know something. I know about everything. And if you need accommodation, my uncle's hotel is in the name...
Thank you again, Mr. Reyes.
See you, Professor.
I won't have an easy time with this good policeman. Miss, there's a man sitting in the main square with a guitar.
Domingo. Useless drunkard. Don't you give him money. He'll spend it on drinks immediately.
These biscuits are very popular today. I have some more biscuits. Would you play more?
I'll take those. Of course I would. Shall I play more? Well then, here are 3 more well-known melodies. El Vals de las Hadas. Campanillas de viento. El Torre Almenara.
Thank you, Domingo. See you later.
May we have the good fortune to meet again, sir. Forgive me, sir, I am thirsty. I will have a drink in the restaurant. Come back later.
All right, Domingo. See you later.
You brought biscuits again? You want me to play for you again? Thank you, sir. Here are 3 more well-known melodies. El Nenufar. Amor se paga con amor. La barca de amor.
Thank you, Domingo. See you later.
May we have the good fortune to meet again, sir. Forgive me, sir, I am thirsty. I will have a drink in the restaurant. Come back later.
All right, Domingo. See you later.